This episode is brought to you by theweddingplanner.co.nz. Welcome back to the Kiwi Wedding Podcast. My name is Lydia and I am a wedding photographer at Lydia Rachel Photography and your host. On today's episode, I'm chatting to the lovely Keren. You may know her from Instagram or her business by Keren Elise. She does branding and design work and is super talented, so make sure you go and check her out. She was also recently married at the Red Barn, where you chat through her whole love story and wedding planning process, what they wanted to prioritize and not compromise on when looking for a venue, all the creative elements they added into their day, but also keeping things simple and not over the top, really considering their guests and whether they would be enjoying the day. A bit of a frantic dress shopping experience, but eventually finding two perfect dresses, all the highlights from their day, a nice local honeymoon and how they extended their honeymoon, going away on different trips throughout the year, wedding planning around children, factoring them in, and whether you want other people's kids on your day. We also talk about what she does. She's done the branding of a few wedding vendors as well, so you may recognize her work. Keren has some incredible wisdom and I think you will really enjoy this chat. Let's get into it. Enjoy episode 75 with Keren. Thank you so much for joining me on the podcast today. So excited to chat all about your wedding.
Yeah, so cool.
So to start with, if you could just tell me a bit about you and your partner, how you guys met and your life together.
So we met during lockdown actually. So we are a Tinder couple. It was interesting. I think everything was different during lockdown. I feel like it was kind of a last ditch effort, I suppose. I was pretty done with dating and had been single for quite a few years. And he just popped up on my Tinder, and I had actually met him in real life before, about a year before that, um, at a plant event because we both really liked indoor plants. Um, and he was with somebody then, and I was not. I was not looking to date anyone, but I just remembered his face, and I was like, "Oh, that's the guy from the plant thing." And then he had a picture of himself at the plant thing there, and I was like, "Oh, it is the right person." And yeah, we matched straight away, and just started talking, and it was very natural. Like I had a lot of my, what do you call them? Just things that I kept for myself because I have two children, and sometimes that, or a lot of the time, people just don't engage if you have children. um, but he was just so chill and just so easy. And yeah, basically everything has just been so easy. He's just, he's a delight. I don't really know how else to explain him, really. A breath of fresh air compared to most of the interesting fellows that you meet. Yeah, and that's it really. Basically, we had our first date, which we'd planned during lockdown, and we had it probably still quite a few weeks after lockdown ended because I'm in Hamilton and he was in Tauranga, and Hamilton was in lockdown for a lot longer than Tauranga was. So he had a lot of time to plan our first date. Um, and yeah, that was it really. Like we had our first date, and that was us. We fell in love, and yeah, we did long distance for about a year. I would go over to Tauranga, and we kind of take turns, but it was easier for me to go over there because it was kind of nicer being in Tauranga than it was in Hamilton. Um, yeah, and then eventually after I think it was a year of dating, he moved, and we moved in together with the children. Yeah.
Oh, so good. I love hearing that. Gives people hope who are out there on the dating apps that it
Yeah,
can work out. It's
there
rough
are
out
some
there.
good ones. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, so good. So, yeah, together for a while and then you got engaged. Can you tell us a bit about your proposal story?
So, one thing that we talked about when we were first dating was that I was very firm, isn't the right word, but we both of us kind of have struggled with communication in our past, and so we wanted to make sure that this relationship was very open communication, that we could tell each other anything. And so when we first were dating, I said to him that a non-negotiable for me was getting married, that I'm not here to just be somebody's partner. That's not my thing. I want a commitment, especially with having 2 kids, and it just aligned with my values. And he was just so fine with it. He's just so good. But and so we talked about getting engaged, made sure it was, a known thing. And then I'd say like 2 years, is it 2 years? I'm not really good with dates. 2 years into it, he asked me what kind of rings I liked, and I told him all the things I didn't like, and then I said, oh, I started sending him some pictures of things that I did like, and then we kind of left it at that. And so I had a really good idea that he was like going to get me a ring, but I still didn't know when. And so I kind of knew that he had this ring, because if you work out the timelines of how long it takes to get made, because I wanted it made, I wanted it to be just mine. And I was like, okay, so he has a ring somewhere. I don't know when is he going to propose. And it felt like forever, because I just felt like I was waiting and waiting and waiting. And so I gave up waiting. And so I was just like, nah. Every time we went out, I was like, oh, this is nice. We went to Wellington. I was like, oh, this is romantic. No, it didn't happen. And so I just kind of gave up. And then one thing that we do regularly is whenever we go to Tauranga, we walk up the mount. And at the top of the mount, we have a little spot where we always take like a silly, goofy selfie. And so we got to the top of the mount, and I was just like a sweaty beast. And he was like, oh, let's go take a selfie. We haven't taken one in a while. And I was like, oh, fine. And we get down to our spot, and there's this guy sitting there. Looked like he's contemplating life, to be honest. But we were like, oh, could you just take our photo, because it's easier than propping it up on the rock and it falls down. And anyway, and so yeah, he had my phone, and then Nick just went down on one knee and proposed. And I was just like kind of in shock, because I was like, obviously it's perfect spot for us, but I just hadn't thought about it. And yeah, that was it. He proposed down on one knee, and this random dude just took photos for us the whole time.
So good.
And we didn't even get his name. And I think he was in as much shock as I was. Um, and obviously I said yes. And then we just giddily walked down the mount, and we were engaged. But we didn't tell anyone. We just packed up our stuff and went home, because we were like, I want to go home. But yeah.
Oh, nice to just enjoy it yourselves for a while. That's such a special spot as well. And love that you had those memories there. It'd be like a cool spot to always go back to.
Yeah, definitely.
So you are quite a creative person. Had you had like a vision and style in mind what you wanted for your wedding? Were you one of those girls that kind of dreamed about it? And what were those first steps, finding a venue, all of that?
Yeah, so obviously being very creative, I'm kind of quite picky on visual things. Having been married before, I was quite young. I knew a lot of things that I didn't want. Um, and I think I learned a bit from that, but I was only 19, so, and I knew a lot of things changed, but I had a good idea of what kind of dress I wanted, and the theme, that sort of thing. And I had many a Pinterest boards, obviously.
Mm.
um, but I was pretty open to it, because I hadn't spoken to Nick about what he wanted. And so I was kind of flying with a theme that I liked. And I hadn't really asked him what he liked. And so when I started sharing my ideas, he was just like, I don't like that.
Oh,
So I was
no.
I was like, oh my gosh, okay, what do you want then? And then that's when we agreed on our black and white theme, because I'm glad we did, though, because it was much more us than just a wedding theme, if that makes sense. Something kind of trendy. I was like, we may as well just go for something that's a bit more us and simple. We're not very over the top people, so we just wanted something that felt like us, I suppose.
Yeah, I love that. And did you look at a few locations? What was that kind of process like finding a spot?
We were trying to find something that was between Hamilton and Tauranga, because obviously my family's here and his family are there, and all of his friends are over there as well. We wanted to find somewhere that wasn't like too far for people to travel if they didn't want to stay, and we didn't want to have to people to bother with accommodation, and everyone has children, and it's just a pain in the ass. We had children, and it's just we were like, okay, how can we make this really easy? Um, so we looked at lots online first, and that helped us rule out a lot. We're both very picky with how something feels. And if it feels kind of like just not enough, we were like, no. So we went to a couple of Tauranga venues. I think we went to the Black Walnut, but I don't think it was available on the day we wanted, or it didn't fit in our budget. I can't remember. And then we went to the Narrows Landing, but it just wasn't our vibe, and just it was too noisy. And then yeah, we set on visiting the Red Barn. Oh, we did go to another one which was just like actually a house menu. I think it was called Jacama Lodge, and it was beautiful. Like the view is just gorgeous. Um, and you could have accommodation there as well. But we kind of decided that we're like, no, I'm unloading something. It's not my responsibility to pay for accommodation for everybody. You can sort yourself. And yeah, then we just went to the Red Barn and fell in love. Bridget, the owner, was who walked us through in our first visit, and she's just so onto it, and it really tickled my kind of type A heart. Just she knew everything and down to the T, and so organized. Like, just it felt like we would be really well looked after. And yeah, we decided that day that we were going to go with the Red Barn because it wasn't exactly our vibe for the wedding visually, but I knew that it would be the best venue for what we needed. It was perfectly in between both Hamilton and Tauranga. It had lots of parking, it was quiet, and the staff were amazing, and food was great. And yeah,
Such a good spot there. Yeah, the team are amazing there as well. Always look after you. And what were the most like important elements for you, your sort of top priorities for the day?
I just wanted it to run really well. I'm a lists person, and
Same.
I like I like things to run really well, but I also didn't want to have to worry about it running. Um, I had my sister as a bridesmaid, and she was just kind of keeping everything going. She was the mental list so that I didn't have to have one, and that was just such a relief off me to not have to think about it. She knew everything that was happening at the right time. I I knew things would go wrong, but having a team, I suppose, around you makes it doesn't really matter if anything goes wrong. I think I just wanted everyone to have a really good time and just feel relaxed, and not have to worry about doing anything. And I think we pretty much achieved that. Um, yeah, I wasn't really worried about anything. Though I was kind of in like the clouds.
And can you tell us a bit about your wedding outfits? What was that process like, finding it, getting it made? Yeah.
I'm an anxiety girl, so the whole process of choosing a dress was really overwhelming. I went with my two bridesmaids and up to Auckland because there's nothing here in Hamilton, and I just I knew it would be a really big day, but I didn't really realize how like emotionally tolling it would be. I don't know, some people I know they really enjoy it. It was just really stressful. The dresses that I loved on Pinterest did not look good on me, and it threw me. I think I was really set on wearing a particular style, and it just made me look like a sausage. And I was just like, okay, what do I do? Um, and I really wanted to get a dress that day because I just was not doing this all over again. And then we went to Jessica Bridal first, and they were so amazing. Like, they brought us out bubbles and made it really feel like an experience. And I was I really loved lots of their dresses, but I didn't fall in love with the dresses. But it's so hard to know because you always know there's more options, I suppose, out there. And then we went to the hightailed it across town to go to the Yours Truly sample sale, and we knew we only had like 20 minutes. to choose something, and it was just stress. Um, Quickly chose like 4 dresses to try on, and I was like, "I don't even know anymore." I'm just like, "This is just." I was just peaking, like, it was, yeah. It was fun, but a lot, and then, yeah, I tried on a dress that I didn't even think that I wanted, which was, like, A-line, and, yeah, I wouldn't say I fell in love with it, but it felt like the right dress, for me. It was comfortable, it wasn't just silk, it wasn't plain, and it felt nice to wear. And so, yeah, then I chose that one, and that was it, really. Um, and then I took that home, but the whole time I knew that I wanted a second dress. So, comfort is key for me. And I knew that walking around in a huge skirt all day was going to drive me insane. So, for my second dress, my lovely client, Yvonne Couture, um, designed my second dress for me. And so she did some sketches and I did some sketches and we melded them together. And she actually drove all the way up here from Hawke's Bay for my first fitting and in calico and looking at fabrics and stuff. And that was so cool. So for the next fitting, my fiance and I drove all the way down there. And over a weekend, she had my dress ready for me. So it was just amazing. And it was such a pleasure and such a difference getting something made rather than picking something off the rack. It was very exciting. Yeah, and I think my second dress was more me than my first dress was, but it was fun being able to change into something a bit more like, I wouldn't say it was more comfortable, but it was just more fun.
So good to hear. It's a little bit of chaos, but then finding the one, and cool that you kind
Yeah,
of had the both experiences of like buying one, getting one made.
yeah.
Yeah, love that. And who was in your bridal party? Did you find that quite an easy process choosing them?
Yeah, so I was always set on having quite a small bridal party. We had a small wedding. So I just, one, it wasn't in our budget to have lots of bridesmaids and groomsmen, but it's not us. We, I mean, I've only got a best friend and my sister, and I have a very small circle of friends, and I was never going to be choosing 4 or 5 bridesmaids. That's just not who I am. I think my husband could have easily chosen very lots of people, but he's the extrovert in our relationship. But yeah, so I chose my sister and my best friend, and it was really easy. It was a no-brainer. I knew that that's who I wanted there, and he found it a little bit difficult to narrow it down to 2. But
Mm.
yeah, we got there in the end.
And how about the guest list? Did you find that hard to narrow down?
Yes and no, because I'd been married before, I knew there was a lot of people that just didn't need to be there. Um, I guess as you grow up and grow out of relationships and, your life changes, your circle gets smaller. And so for me, even with family, still have quite a small circle. So for me, it wasn't hard. I think I had 20 people, 22 people that were my people, and that was it. Um, I have my girls that supported me through everything from the divorce through into my own new relationship, and obviously they were going to be there. And then it was just my family, and that was my people. I don't even think it was 20 people. I feel like it might have been like less than that. And the rest was Nick's friends. He's got a lot of friends and a lot of family. And that was so fine because, it was only the second wedding for his family and it was very exciting for them. And having people come from Australia from his family too was special. And yeah, I think it was hard to keep it to a certain number because we wanted to have a certain amount of tables to make the space feel nice. And so I think in the end we invited, I think it was 56 people, and then we had 4 people not be able to come last minute. 2 was COVID, and the other was just something else. Yeah, like it was very small and intimate, but then at the same time it was perfect. I couldn't have imagined having any more people, or it would have felt unnecessary.
Yeah, no, that's a really nice number. Just a lot easier to kind of chat with everyone and not be
Yeah,
so overwhelmed as well. So,
yeah.
yeah.
It still
Oh,
felt like a lot of people though.
yeah. Yeah, a double would have been, yeah, even more crazy. But
I
no,
couldn't
it's,
imagine having like, yeah, 100. I don't even think I got around talking to all my people.
yeah.
But
And can you tell us a bit about the big day? How did it all go down? And yeah, any highlights or favorite moments?
it was good. I think it was a lot of planning, arranging around children, because I've got two older kids, well, 10 and 8, and then my bestie, she has her little girl who's 8 as well. And so just trying to arrange childcare and all that kind of stuff. And my sister has a little girl too. So, like, everyone's like, we got to sort out our children and make sure this is going to work for everyone so it's not too stressful. That was very important for me. I didn't want anyone to feel like I was stressing them out because I'm a people pleaser. But I didn't mind. It was good. It all worked out in the end. We had the rehearsal the day before the wedding, and we had it in the afternoon so that we had my parents come and my children come because they were the page boy and flower girl, as well as another flower girl, which was my bestie's girl. Yeah, so everyone came to the rehearsal, and then after the rehearsal, we just disbanded. um, Nick went home to our house with the groomsmen, and my parents took my children home to stay the night with them, and I went with my bridesmaids to our accommodation, which was just down the road. And so having that kind of planned, and then childcare for the day as well, like as in who was actually watching the children. Um, we actually had no children invited to the wedding because as a parent, it's not fun having to chase after a child all day. So I babies were fine because I had there was quite a few babies. Sister-in-laws had babies and some friends, and that's super fine. But yeah, I did no children, and so it was just my children running chaotically around, and it was the right balance. And so the grandparents looked after them, and yeah, my bestie's daughter's grandma came to the wedding as well, so that she could look after Eva. Not that I don't think anyone knew what they were doing. They were just running off, having a great old time, hassling the bar manager for more coke. But everything went really well. I think nothing actually went wrong, if you'd say. Like, everything just happened, and no one was late. My veil didn't stay on, but that was just the wind.
Mm,
I mean,
classic. It happens a
I know.
lot.
And then I forgot to put it back on for half the photos, and you know, but no, I just everything was good. Timeline was like ticking along, and it was making me feel all good. The photographer was happy, and oh, it just and the weather was beautiful, and so I couldn't have really asked for anything better, to be honest.
So good. Sounds like such a good day. It's a really good venue for kids as well. Just have
Yeah. Oh,
like
there's so many
a bit
places
of
they can go.
space and yeah, space to explore. It's not like too close to any roads or anything.
No,
So
we paid for all the extra games and stuff so that people could play
yeah.
those, and the kids were having a hoot. And yeah, that was great.
Are you a bride or groom in New Zealand feeling overwhelmed by the thought of your big day? I get it. Planning your dream wedding is a journey filled with excitement and a little bit of stress too. The last thing you want is to worry about the details on your wedding day. That's where the wedding planner comes in. They specialise in wedding day of coordination, ensuring everything runs smoothly from start to finish. They have an experienced team right across New Zealand that takes care of all the details so you can focus on enjoying every magical moment. From managing vendors and timelines to handling unexpected hiccups, they've got it covered. Let the wedding planner turn your wedding dreams into a flawless reality. They are New Zealand's go-to for a stress-free and perfectly coordinated day. The wedding planner has an exclusive offer just for listeners. Mention the podcast when booking and receive their comprehensive venue walkthrough and ceremony rehearsal add-on, valued at $250 with any package. Get the extra peace of mind you need just before your big day arrives. Visit theweddingplanner.co.nz to inquire and book a consultation to make your special day everything you've imagined and more. Thank you so much to The Wedding Planner for supporting this episode of the Kiwi Wedding Podcast. What did you find like the hardest part about the whole wedding planning process? Is there anything you look back on and regret or would do a little bit differently?
I wish we'd had it in our budget to have a wedding planner or just an assistant or something if I had been able to disband some things. And I know I could have asked of other people to do things, but I'm a perfectionist, and if I didn't know that they could do it properly, I just wanted to do it myself. Um, and so we decided to do a bit of DIY stuff because it wasn't in our budget to have somebody else do it for us. Like, we wanted wax seals on the invitations and on the menus, and so I had sent away to get the seals done. And making those seals was probably the most stressful thing because many a words were me and Nick were just like, oh my god, never doing this again. Gonna yeet this freaking wax seal out the window. But I think it was just like the late nights, trimming out tiny little names to put on the menus. And it felt like a lot, like making up the favors, putting, them all, having it all organized and being aware of all the different things all the time. If I'd had it in my budget to have somebody that could have just done that for me, and I knew that they were good at it, that would have been a huge weight off of my shoulders. But at the same time, I didn't mind doing it because I do love crafting and doing things like that anyway. Yeah, I think that's about it really. Otherwise, everyone was just so helpful. And like my sister arranged it was like a survival kit. It had every single thing in it that you could possibly think of that you would need, or anyone in the bridal party and the groomsmen needed in the day. Like, you need paracetamol, she got a paracetamol. Like, you need a panty liner, there's a panty liner in there. Like, it's just everything. And that felt so nice to know that if anything happened, that we had everything arranged that we needed as well.
So
But
good.
yeah,
That's such a
yeah,
good tip for
yeah,
bridesmaids, especially. Yeah.
yeah. I don't know, everyone was just so good. Like, the photographer was so onto it. The venue was just so bloody onto it. Like, we had our main organizer, Frances, at the beginning, and she ran everything until drinks started after the wedding, and then we got transferred over to the next manager, the bar manager, and I can't remember her name for the life of me. But they were just amazing, and yeah, they just introduced themselves to us, and it was just, I don't know, everything was just great. So everyone was just so helpful. Yeah.
And yeah, if you're happy to talk about budget, did you have one? How did that kind of go? Did you end up going over it? Yeah.
Yeah, like, we don't like spending money. We don't burn money. We save. And so for us, spending a lot of money on something just makes us want to be sick. But we had a budget of 30,000 and we were pretty keen to stick to that. We knew it wouldn't be under that, because Nick made a spreadsheet and we'd kind of entered everything into it in approximates before we'd even got like my dress and stuff like that. And I think at the end of the day, it included everything but the rings. Is that about it? Yeah, my dress was in there. Yeah, so it included everything but the Oh, it didn't include my second dress, but yeah, and I think it was only a couple of grand over. I haven't actually dared look like at it afterwards, but the only expense that I didn't put in there was dry cleaning, which you should put in your budget.
Yeah.
It's expensive,
Yeah, for a wedding dress.
especially if you've got
It
two dresses and suits. But yeah, but no, we were pretty good, to be honest. If we saw something that was going to fly over our budget, we had to reassess it, because it was really important to us not to waste money. Not that your wedding is a waste, but think of it in a logical way. Like, this is one day of your life. We're not going to burn through a house deposit in one day. We want to do the best that we can and create the most loveliest day within our budget. And yeah, we achieved that. So It was really cool. I think I would have loved to have spent a bit more on florals, but yeah, again, at the end of the day, we had to just think what we're not over the top people, so having it more minimalistic was more us, and I was really happy with what we had anyway. And yeah, like when it all came together and you see it on the day, I think you have like your hesitations at the beginning, and then when the day actually comes, you're like, oh, this is actually perfect. So yeah,
Yeah. Oh, so good. It's very impressive. A lot of people spend a lot more these days, but I think,
I
yeah, it's
know.
good for people to hear that you can do it for that. And yeah, maybe you had a little bit less guests than some people, or,
Yeah, I think you just have to think about it in a logical way, like, especially if you've got plans, to do other
mm,
things with your life. I mean, we had just bought a house as well, um, and it just it wasn't financially a safe thing to do to drop that much and put yourself into debt for a wedding. Um, we're very my husband's very like into it with his financial lingo. He definitely kept me in line. Um, but yeah, no, there's different ways you can save on things without changing how the day feels, you know. I mean, like we did not save on venue or food, just because we wanted really good food and, you know, that was half our budget, but that's so fine because it was so worth it and everyone loved the food, and the venue. And yeah, I think it's just little things like I did save money doing a lot of stuff myself. That I'm lucky that I am a designer and I don't have to pay somebody to do anything for me. So,
mm.
yeah, I mean, while be stressful, um, yeah, I'd say I probably would have saved about thousands not having to pay a designer to do anything for me. Yeah,
Yeah, so
but
good. So
some
handy to
pros.
have that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Did you do all your like stationery design
yeah,
and then yeah, yeah,
yeah. I
so
did
good.
everything. Yeah, I did. Yeah, I did the save the date cards, which we actually hand mailed out to people, even overseas people, and that had the wax seal on it as well. And I hand calligraphy, we call it calligraphy,
Yeah.
their names on it. Just, I mean, I could have made my life easier, but I wanted black envelopes and that needed a white pen. And then I was like, I may as well just do it all myself. Yeah, no, I designed everything myself. And so everything, I thought of it like it was a a brand, so everything was aligned and felt like it was the same, all the same fonts, sizes, feel, everything was black and white, all contrasting. So yeah, it was fun to bring it together. Definitely stressful, yes, but
No, I love that. It's very on brand of your work as well,
I
and
know
just
it is
like
on
yeah,
brand for my
represents
brand as well.
you.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah,
yeah,
it's you. It's like people too. So yeah, it's so good. Nice to have that like personal touch, even though if it's a bit stressful leading up,
yeah.
but
It
yeah,
was definitely
saves
worth
you
it.
as well.
Yeah.
And did you guys go on honeymoon straight away? What did planning that look like?
We knew that we wouldn't be going away anywhere straight away. Initially, we had planned in a year to go over to Italy or Greece, and just kind of work up to that. Because we had just purchased our first home, everything was tight. Um, but we're also just realistic. Again, we're not like super frivolous people, and we knew that we wanted to do something special straight after the wedding. So we went and we booked a B&B in Waihi in Bowen Town, and we stayed at this really nice Santorini style B&B. And it was really nice to just kind of escape for a couple of days. My husband did actually have to go to work on Monday, so we
Oh.
we had to come home, me being more flexible, but he's not. And yeah, so it was pretty much straight back to reality. But I'm glad that we took that time. And so what we decided was that we were, in the meantime, we would just have a few weekends at different B&Bs over the course of the year, like little date weekends away, making sure that we're still prioritizing our relationship, while not, burning through money, because we knew that eventually what we want to do was going to cost a lot. But yeah, at the end of the day, we put it on hold, um, because we have a lot of renovations to do in our house, and that's just more important than flying overseas, even though that would be so nice
Yeah.
right now.
Something to look forward to later. Yeah, but I love that doing little things, spreading it out. Like if you go away every month or few months and just like
Yeah.
mini honeymoons, that's such a cool
Yeah, we
idea.
got a little Airbnb voucher as one of our wedding presents as well, which we used just last month. We went up to Bethel's Beach, and it was such a nice like escape from everything. There's nothing there, so
Yeah. Oh, so
but yeah,
good. We're so
yeah,
lucky in New Zealand with so many
I
beautiful
know.
spots as well. So good
Yeah,
excuse to do some exploring.
definitely, yes.
And were there any sort of helpful websites, apps, different resources that you use during wedding planning in terms of definitely Pinterest for inspo you've already
Yeah.
mentioned, anything like that, or for like finding vendors as well?
Um, I just did a whole lot of good old Googling. I'm kind of a pen and paper girl. And we had our spreadsheet. So I don't remember looking at things on particular websites, to be honest, because I knew our budget was less than most people. A lot of the options that were on those websites were just completely out of our budget, so I didn't even entertain it. I didn't look at anything that I knew was out of our budget, because I get really bad like FOMO. So
Mm.
I'm like, I'm not going to look at that. That's not happening. Because, yeah, a lot of the suggestions were either one or the other. So they were like either really expensive or way too budget. Like, I didn't want it to look crappy. Yeah, so I just ended up searching my own. I think I even went so far as like just going on Google Maps and like finding venues in particular locations that I liked. Yeah, we read a lot of reviews, but the reviews are quite like not really the best representation unless you actually go and visit the venue. Um, but yeah, yeah, it was just good old research, the old
Yeah,
fashioned
so
way.
good. No, I
Yeah.
love that. It's great. And I think, yeah, that's really good advice for people. If you know you're sticking in a certain budget, then try and have those boundaries with yourself. Like, don't
Yeah.
even entertain and then,
No.
yeah, end up overspending or.
Yeah, and I think that's how you go over, like, I mean, obviously it depends on the person as well, but like just not entertaining things that you know are outside of your budget because that will make you go over budget and which would add stress. And I just wanted it to be at the most least stressful. It was stressful enough with just planning everything and making sure everything ticked along. Um, and yeah, like we didn't even have an engagement party. That was purely out of time because we'd just bought a house and we just moved in and we were like, are we going to have a, you know, new home party? And then we didn't even
Housewarming,
do that.
yeah.
We just so swept up in wedding planning, and then we're like, now we're just going to get married. We'll save however many thousands you'd spend on an engagement party. We're like, nobody cared.
Yeah.
We're like, we're engaged. Okay,
Aw.
gonna get married.
Yeah. You've given a lot of advice already, but yeah, is there any other advice that you would give to couples that are planning their wedding right now?
It really depends on the person, I think too, because I know everyone is so different and everyone's partners are different as well. But just like ask your partner what they want because it is their day as well. It is not just the bride's day. And I think that's the thing that gets missed the most is the guys are completely uninvolved. They have nothing to do with it. They have no idea what's happening. Like give them a list of things to do because this is their wedding as well. Like Nick was ironing napkins with me and stuffing envelopes, folding pieces of paper, doing the wax, doing the wax thing. And while there wasn't a lot he could do, having him help with those things, it just takes a load off. And I mean, you're a team anyway, so why would you take it all completely on yourself? Um,
Mm.
and just, yeah, I don't know, like some of the best weddings I've been to are ones that feel like both of the people in the couple, not just the bride, or it's not just made to look like it's going to be in a magazine. You know, I don't, I mean, I care what things look like, but I care more about how much fun people are having or how much my guests are enjoying their day rather than if I've got the latest branded this or um, does this look like it could be in a magazine. I couldn't really care less. I know that a lot of people stress a lot about how things look, and it is important because it's a special day. but there's other things to worry about. And I think just focus on what represents you as a couple the best, and don't risk your relationship for like just arguments over things. Like I don't even think we argued over anything. I mean, Nick's really easy, but I think it's just not worth it. It's meant to be a happy day, and it's not meant to completely stress out your relationship. The last thing you want is to go into a wedding angry at each other. Um, so just, yeah, remember why you're getting married. Make it fun. Like it's what's the point of stressing out so much about something when it's supposed to be about love and your relationship? Um, I feel like that's the thing that gets missed the most.
Such great advice. I love that. So important to just go back to like, why are we even doing this? And
I
it
know.
can be such a stressful time for people. And then, yeah, cause like stress in your relationship, which is kind of ironic when you're meant to be like
I know.
peak
It's meant to be the
celebrating
best
your
day of your
love.
life. Yeah.
Yeah, there totally is that social media pressure and people feeling comparison, even just in their like friend groups and stuff, with making their wedding look amazing for a magazine or Instagram or whatever, and can be hard to put blinders onto that. But yeah, so important, just like remember the why, and yeah, what represents you, not like
Yeah.
trying to have the
Yeah. I mean,
latest trend
it
of
is,
everything.
it is really hard because like I think any female, it is consumerism, but it's also we're so oversaturated with social media that we feel like we must have this branded this for the wedding, or like, and I mean, I was guilty in some ways for that as well. Like, I was like, I don't want to get like just cheap earrings. Like, I want like nice earrings. Um, but then I like found the ones I loved secondhand, and I was like, yes. I was like
So good.
stoked. Saved myself like $180. It's just something that you wear for one day, just so you can tag them on Instagram. I think that's where I like had to check myself. I was like, actually, like, what are you doing? Like, yeah, it is hard, and I think you do need to make sure that you're aware of it. Especially, I think, even if you don't just have a smaller budget, just in general, like, yeah, I don't know, that's social media, that's a whole nother
Yeah, it's the best.
another world.
Yeah. And what is married life like now? Do you feel like you got any of the post wedding blues?
I don't think so. I think I like to be busy. And so getting back into work in my normal routine, and obviously having children too, life just smacks you in the face. You're straight back into it. There is no break in life. I think my kids came back the Wednesday after the wedding, and it was just back to normal life. Um, and that's it. Um, but I think having that love bubble still around is really important. I think for me, like after the wedding, my work slowed down quite a lot, and I did talk about that on social media. Um, I had quite a few months of very slow work, which was really out of the blue for me. And if anything, that gave me blues.
Mm.
But I wasn't sad after the wedding. I was actually weirdly relieved for it to be over, because it was like it's like a high peaking sort of feeling, and you're just functioning really high the whole time, probably the 3 months leading up to the wedding. And when it was over, I was just like, oh my God, I don't have to check my emails. Like, I'm not going to miss anything important. Like, I've paid all my deposits, all my money's done. Like, it's gone. Everybody's paid. Nobody needs me. I don't have to go to 1,000 appointments. My hair doesn't need to be touched up. Like, I can just like be a slob. It was so good.
So great. And I wanted to ask you as well, you've mentioned being a designer and working with brands and stuff, and I know a lot of small business owners and wedding vendors listen to this as well. Can you tell us a little bit about what you do and yeah, how you sort of work with brands and businesses?
So yeah, I do branding design. I predominantly work with women in business, but it's not 100% the case. That's just naturally who I feel gravitates towards me. Leading up to the wedding, I naturally was working with a lot of wedding vendors, photographers, dress designers, venues. It was just a really nice natural progression, I think, into being married. But in general, I do love working with wedding vendors because it's exciting. And I think with such a competitive industry, it's really important to make sure that you are keeping your brand top notch. And so, yeah, basically in general, I create brands. I like to say strong brands. Um, I don't like the word stand out, but you want to make sure that when you are crafting a new identity, that it represents the brand really well. So that when somebody lands on their page or anywhere of their touch points, that people are like, oh my gosh, that's so this person. And that when they're sharing, what you want is for your post to come up on social media and somebody to be like, oh my God, that is the Peach Club. And that's probably, I get the most comments from the Peach Club branding that we did.
Yeah,
Um,
so good.
but that's what you want, and that creates brand recognition. And this is why we invest into our businesses, because we want them to be the best that they can be. And in such a noisy industry that's always competing against other vendors, you want to have something that sets you apart. And so having branding that represents who you are the best and makes you stand out against others in a good way, not in a competitive way. We're not here to compete. We're just here to put the best foot forward so that a bride lands on your page and says, oh my gosh, that's exactly what I want, because she's such a vibe. And yeah, that's what I do. Create the vibes.
Oh, I love that. It's so good. Your work is beautiful. So we'll definitely put all your details in. Everyone go and check it out if you haven't already. Do you ever do design for weddings? I just will ask in case you want to turn people away or not. Are
I
you
I
open to that?
used to. I did used to, before I went real heavy into branding. My age-old excuse comes into my head, just saying that I don't have time, which is so not true. Um, I I take on a lot of people's like stress. I don't know if that's just the type of person I am. I find
Empath.
doing stuff for weddings really stressful, and I can feel the bride's like anxiety, and I'm just like, oh. But I can do it. It just depends. It so depends. I think the issue is it's just not normally in people's budget to do it. And if you are investing into your stationery, a lot of the time, whoever you're getting it printed through is going to be able to do the design for you. But it really just depends on your budget. If you have the budget for a designer, I'd say why the heck not create like a whole identity. Um, but yeah, it just depends. Everyone is so different. Some people don't care as much about it. Um, but I can do it, and I have done it in the past, but I don't advertise it only because it stresses me out sometimes.
Yeah, selected few, only if you can fit in. But yeah, so good. Did you do your own wedding website as well, or did you just stick to the like
No,
paper?
I was going to, and then I was just like, do you know, that's in the hard basket. I just CBF. I'm trying to think who I used. I think I sent out, like, when we first had a date for the wedding, I sent out some digital save the dates through paperless post, and that ended up being quite expensive. And then our wedding website, who was it through? I don't even remember.
It's
It
all
was one
good.
of the main ones that you can send. Yeah, and it was really simple, and I think it was free.
Mm,
It was just basically to collect RSVPs and people's dietary requirements for the meals.
yeah, perfect. So good. It's been so lovely to chat to you today. Is there anything else you wanted to add as we wrap up?
I'm just, in general, just so happy with how everything went, and our vendors were all just amazing, and they just went over and above for us, which was just so neat. And I think that really adds to the whole experience, having vendors that communicate with you, um, and are just helpful. Yeah. And I don't know, just a really amazing partner helps as well.
Absolutely. Number one decision, right?
Yeah, well, one like a last minute thing we decided was that the groomsmen could have lunch at the venue, and since our wedding was in at 2:30, um, they yeah, we paid for them to have lunch there, and the kitchen made it for them, and it was just so good. So the boys were there at like 10 o'clock in the morning, and they just oversaw everything. Nick went and checked out all the tables and made sure things were in the places where I wanted them, and that was so handy. Just, I mean, he's really hands on, but yeah, that was like, it helped my brain because I didn't have to worry about it on the day because there was no way I was going to check anything. No way. I don't have time for
Oh,
that.
so good. That's a good little tip to do if you can. Love that.
Yeah,
Thank you so much for coming on.
no worries. It was nice chatting about it.